The time is just gone 19 minutes past 8 a.m. and we kick off this morning on the show looking at Kashmir and looking at the campaigns for Kashmir. Now, last week we spoke about Red for Kashmir, and this morning we're talking about a campaign called Black for Kashmir. We're joined by Texas-based advocate for the Kashmir Solidarity Movement, Mary Scully. Mary, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Yes, wonderful that you are able to join us, and we do appreciate your time with us this morning, Mary. And just looking at Kashmir, and obviously from time to time, we need to remind ourselves of the campaign because Kashmir has been described as a silent genocide that has been unfolding. Sometimes there is not a lot of focus on Kashmir, particularly looking at the mainstream media. And as I mentioned, from time to time, with campaigns like Red for Kashmir or Black for Kashmir, we need to remind ourselves of what is unfolding in that part of the world.
Yes, yes. There's been a news blackout about Kashmir, I think, for several decades. I don't think most of us knew there was even a struggle in Kashmir until social media evolved and Kashmiri activists began using social media to make the case, to educate about their struggle and make the case for solidarity. I think that's where most of us became introduced. These activists on social media broke this blockade that had been imposed on mainstream media for decades.
Yes. Well, definitely, and it has been often described also as a forgotten occupation because, when we look at occupations around other parts around the world, particularly when one looks at Palestine, for instance, getting a lot of prominence, but Kashmir, whatever is taking place in Kashmir is basically taking place in Palestine as well. Now, just looking at your part of the world, the United States of America, and looking at this campaign that obviously you are advocating for as well, Mary, and just trying to understand, are we able to reach out to other Americans? Are we able to reach out to the rest of the world with regards to Kashmir in highlighting the plight and the situation that the Kashmiris find themselves in?
Well, we're faced with a really huge problem because the Indian government is very aggressively repressing the voices of Kashmiris, and not just Kashmiris on social media, but Kashmiri supporters. Today, I received notice, and I am one of hundreds. I received notice from Facebook that my account was now blocked in India and in occupied Kashmir. And at the same time, I received an email from Twitter legal department saying that India had requested that my account be blocked for information which violated their laws. And I'm one of hundreds. India has managed to eliminate most Kashmiri activists from social media by threatening to arrest them, by calling them in for interrogation, by threatening their families. And so most Kashmiris are no longer able to campaign on social media. They're not even able to like posts or comment on posts because they're under cyber surveillance at all times, and they're endangered by it. So India is really, really suffocating the voices of Kashmiri resistance and of its supporters. And that's why building an international movement on the model of the anti-apartheid struggle and the anti-Vietnam War movement, which were global movements, which were collaborative, which were democratic, that is a very daunting task that faces us, but it's an absolute imperative one because we live in an age of genocide. The Palestinians, the Uyghur, the Rohingya, the Kashmiris, there's many other peoples, indigenous tribes. We live in an era of genocide, and if we leave it up to spontaneous outbursts, like after the 2014 siege of Gaza or the 2017 genocidal assault on the Rohingya or the 2019 imposition of direct colonial rule on Kashmir, if we leave that response up to spontaneous eruptions of protest, it's not sufficient in a time of genocide. It becomes more like letting off steam, periodically letting off steam, rather than being a movement which is able to mobilize political power and to exercise political power on behalf of these beleaguered peoples, those who are on the front lines of oppression. And so I think that we need to, it's a very daunting task, but it's possible to do it, to build a movement that can speak for them when their voices are silenced, that can amplify their voices when their voices are being muffled. And I think that part of that requires a unity in action between these struggles. It's not a competition between the Rohingya, the Kashmiris, the Palestinians, the Uyghur, and others. It's not a competition. There's an affinity between these struggles, not the least of which is that they are all Muslim, predominantly Muslim, and being targeted as so-called terrorists under the rubrics of the war on terror. So it involves trying to engage these different movements, which are all very weak globally, to involve them in united action and to build a movement on the model, like I say, of the anti-apartheid movement and the anti-Vietnam War movement. Because we are committed to this, no matter how much they silence Kashmiris, no matter how much they try to silence our voices, we will find a venue, we will find ways to amplify the voices, to explain the Kashmiri struggle, the Palestinian struggle, the Uyghur, the Rohingya struggle. We will find venues to do that. We will not be silenced.
Yes, I think what you say is extremely important, Mary, because one needs to find a common cause and a common strategy, like we had seen earlier in the year with Israel and what had happened with Palestine. And when one looks at the international reaction that had taken place, almost every major city around the world,
yes,
in terms of protest, in terms of creating awareness. And this is exactly what we should be looking for as far as Kashmir is concerned, and also some of the other struggles that you've been talking about, whether it's the Uyghur, whether it's the Rohingya, or anywhere else where the type of oppression is taking place and where genocide is unfolding.
Yes, I completely agree. It's a very daunting task. And India does not make it easy because it puts tremendous pressure on, first of all, Kashmiris. Brutal. It's a brutal, brutal occupation, merciless. But what we discovered in building the Red for Kashmir Day on August 5th, what we discovered is that there are Kashmiris in diaspora and solidarity activists around the world who want to do something. And we connected with them, veteran Kashmiris who live in other countries, veterans of the struggle, veterans who were actively involved in organizing solidarity, and then young people, especially in Azad Kashmir, but lots of young people in their organizations and as individuals who are eager to do something and who are looking for allies like myself and others outside who are non-Kashmiris, who can solidify with their struggle and help to broaden their struggle. So we feel that we're in a stronger position. We're not in a strong position. We're in a stronger position than we were 6 months ago, because now we have identified allies, we've identified people all over the world who are eager to work together. And so we feel that we have the beginning, the very beginnings of a movement, and we have no intention of being sidetracked. We are committed to the Kashmiri struggle as we are committed to the Palestinian and Rohingya struggle. Many of us have been active. I've been involved in politics since 1966, since the Vietnam War movement. I've been a Palestinian solidarity activist since the 1967 war. When I was at the University of Minnesota, I saw a lone Palestinian picketer protesting the 67 war, and I've been an activist ever since. I got involved in writing about the Rohingya struggle in 2012 during that genocidal onslaught. So I'm not the only one. There are many of us who are experienced political activists, solidarity activists, and we're not fly-by-nights. We're not here today and gone tomorrow. We intend to be with this for the duration until the Kashmiris are triumphant over colonialism, until the Palestinians and Rohingya and Uyghur are triumphant.
Well, Mary, obviously we are going to be following your campaigns, and we certainly look forward to engaging with you a lot more going into the future, because you come with a lot of experience in this field, and I'm sure in terms of building this global solidarity movement that you're talking about, there is a lot that you are able to contribute. And I know this is a drive time show, but there is just so much more, I'm sure, that you can share with us, and hopefully on our future show, where we could have a lot more of an in-depth discussion with you, so that we can unpack, where we want to actually take this from here. But for now, Mary, thank you very much for your time with us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. Doing this interview is helping to build the movement, but we have many supporters in South Africa. You have a very advanced solidarity movement.
Well, thank you very much for that and for your time. We wish you all the best, and please take care. Please be safe. Thank
you. God bless you.
Mary Scully joining us this morning out of Texas in the United States of America. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back.